So, we'll kick off. It's 11 o'clock, and I suppose as people come in, there's one or two coming in, they can join us. A few things. Firstly, I'm Chris Exton. I'm the course director for ISE. Welcome. Thanks for your enthusiasm. Thanks for showing up Saturday morning. You'll see that there's a few QR codes coming up there. There's one for an interactive session, and we have one where you can put up questions. But for me, I'm actually completely happy if you just hold up your hand and ask me a question as we go, right? And we have at least 5 members of the ISE course team here, and they're quite likely to jump in and correct me. Or is correct the right word? No, just help me. So they might jump in. So sometimes if you have a question, maybe one of them guys will take it. But I'm happy that you just put up your hand and ask questions as we go. This is the running order today. And you might see Mark gesture at me sometimes because I tend to sometimes get into flow and just go over time. And he might sort of tell me to cut it short sometimes. We have, well, I'm sort of starting off and welcome you. This is the welcome. We have some students, some of them on video, some of them are going to be here. What I would say about a day like this is, you can always sort of find out stuff on the web and go to sort of brochures and all that, but a day like this is actually when you get to chat to students and you get to chat to staff and myself. So I'll certainly be here after it, so you can ask me after it, you can ask me as things are going, but I would encourage you to be as interactive as you can. There's a lot of stuff we'll tell you about you could have read on the web, so the nice bit about today is you can have a bit of a chat and you can ask a bit of questions. And you can meet some of the students. You already have met some of the students that were outside there, and I think they're probably our best ambassadors. So we've got some students. We'll try and give you an idea of the projects. We have Barry Lund coming. He may be late, so we may flip those around. We have a bit of an icebreaker session to sort of, that's going to be run by Ian, I think. Yeah. And at the end, just to make sure you've listened to everything, there's a bit of a quiz. It's just a fun quiz, okay? It's got nothing to do with entering into course. But there's we've got some goodies here, but I told for the winner of the quiz there's a special sign of goodies. So but at that stage you can get to that point. How am I doing time-wise? Good.
We've got 2 minutes.
Got 2 minutes left. So if you're shy, and I would encourage you not to be, I'm not. I was. If you're shy, you can ask questions via this QR code, and we'll sort of gather them. And I'll go up the back and microphone. I'll go up the back. Thank you. I'll go up the back. No, I think we're meant to leave it here. I'll go up the back. I normally don't have trouble being picked up by mics. I'll go up the back and try and answer some of your questions. This is who I am. A little bit of my background. I've sort of been a bit all over the world, but I would have studied computing originally, and I grew up in Clare. After studying computing, left Ireland, and at the time got with working in London, went to Australia, did my PhD in Australia, but finished back here in I think 2001. And computing, and particularly programming is my thing. But I actually got involved in the psychology of programming. It's an interesting group called PPIG, Psychology of Programming Interest Group. But so I did a psychology degree, but the psychology degree is just sort of more of an interest factor. I mostly exist in the software world, even within ISE. So I've talked enough for a little while, and I'm going to introduce Ian here, who's going to take over and talk for the next 3 slides. Okay. Yeah, my voice isn't quite as loud as Chris, so do I need a microphone? Can you hear me? Yeah. Okay, so
You're probably familiar with the entry requirements already. I'm sure you'll be looking at this online. You're already applied to the CAO. The leaving cert requirements there, fairly standard. We have a minimum grade H4 maths. And the main reason we're here today actually is the entrance submission there, which is what we're going to focus on. The way that works, if you're not familiar, it's CAO points. You get maximum of 625 if you get 6 A's, including an A in maths. You then get there's an extra, up to an extra 200 marks you can get points for the entrance submission. And these are added together then to get the points you need to go forward into the ISE program. The lowest entry point last year was 676, so that's the last person to get into the program of the 58 students who came in. The main focus today, I just go briefly over these here because we actually go into more detail. We have 3 technical and we have 3 Route B options as well. We're going to go through over the next hour and a half. So option A is a technology project. This probably focuses more on people who want to submit one large technology-focused proposal or project. And there's an 800-word word limit. It's actually a single PDF document that you submit through our submission portal, which we'll talk about again briefly in the next few slides. As it says there, this doesn't have to be a computer program. It's a use of technology. So it's only a situation where you use technology that you found interesting and you want to share with us. And other folks, we want to know what you did, but we're also very interested in how you did it. What's your thought processes? How did you come to this decision? You could submit something that maybe didn't work perfectly, but we'd be more interested in something like that, where you explain how you overcame obstacles and you solved problems and you went through iterations, and something that's just presented as perfect and we don't know how you did it. So that explains what we're looking for. We've full details on our website as well if you want to go into more depth on that. We've embedded videos and everything and how to complete all of that. We will also then, after we've looked at the 3 technical projects, we will focus on option B. This is the personal profile route. This kind of casts a broader net, if you like. It's not hardcore programming, but you say you still have interest in technology and problem solving and you want to feel like you're a good match for this course. Then what you do is you could use the personal profile route. There are 4 questions. You have to answer 3 of them. And you can see they're quite a broad spread. The first one is just sharing about an accomplishment you have that you're proud of. Shows your ability to achieve things. Question 2 then is more about problem solving, how you solve problems, how did you learn from that experience? Because that software engineering is all about problem solving. Question 3, this is an opportunity of, say you have a technical background but you didn't go route A, and you say a smaller project you want to talk about as part of the other 2 answers, then this would be a very good way of doing that. And finally, question 4 is, you can kind of pitch about, if I was in the course next year, this is what I would like to work on. So we want to see, your innovation, what you're thinking about, what you want to do in the future. And this is to me, it's quite an important slide. How many people here have already submitted for the deadline February 1st, the normal CAO closing date? I'd say to most people here, yeah, I thought so. So most of you are going to be in the green at the top. So the way our process works is you need to obviously submit an entrance submission to us so that we can then allocate you the up to 200 extra points as part of the program. You also need to submit an entrance submission to become part of the course. If you don't submit anything, then you don't go forward. You can't actually apply for the course. So it's very important you submit something. What will happen is academic registry here at UL, the central body that looks after all the CAO submissions, they will get a list of everyone here who's applied for LM173, this course. And then they will send out an email to you with a link in it. And you click on that link, you will go to our submission portal where you can input your entrance submission for either option A or option B. It's all explained within that. Once you go to that site, it tells you quite clearly which route to go, what to fill in, where to upload files, etc. And actually, we have a lot of videos on our website showing you, walking right through that whole process. If you also supply a mobile phone number, which I think most people do, you will also get an SMS from Academic Registry to remind you that you should submit your entrance submission. The deadline for the submissions is around mid-April. The reason we don't have specific dates at the minute is because it's all dependent on the CAO itself when they release these lists to the universities. So we're kind of reacting to that. But you would have around a month to submit. Although I'm assuming you probably all have your entrance submissions pretty much there already, I would say. It's something you've been working on for the last few years. It should all be in your head, ready to go out. So then you submit by mid-April, and then we will get the results back to you, how many points you got out of the 200, to help you make decisions later on in early May. The late applications, I'm not sure how here has gone for that, but I'll just go through it anyway. This is a later date, it's mid-May, the dates just shuffle forward a bit. What's important to remember is you don't get notification of how many points you got out of 200 until early July. There is an embargo nationwide on universities contacting anyone doing the Leaving Cert during the actual Leaving Cert examination period. So we don't want to distract you, from something that's very important. So the normal closing one is the only one where you can get the points before you start doing the Leaving Cert. And then finally, this change of mind. This would be where you want to say rearrange your top 10 or add an extra course. And that would then, the submission deadline's there mid-July. The deadline is also mid-July. It's only about 7 to 10 days there. It's a very tight amount of time. And then you get your notification results by the end of July. One important thing to point out is whichever route you pick, once you pick that route and you get the link from Academic Registry, you must use the link for that window to submit your entrance submission. If you're late, you can't then say, oh, I'll submit for the change of mind, because the link has already been shared, and Academic Registry will only share the link once. They would just deem it that you didn't submit in the first one and you're not eligible. Does that make sense? I think next I'm handing it back to Chris.
Any questions? Nobody's asked anything. We could be brave enough to go on.
If you're familiar, the CAO deadline was shifted because of the storm. So
was it? I don't know. Was it CAO deadline shifted because of the storm?
Oh, it's haircuts, was it?
February, I think.
No, it's not February 1st. That's
good.
So I submitted this on 2nd February.
Yeah.
I was wondering would I still be in normal day?
Well, as long as you submit on time for that window, it's fine. That's CAO process rather than ours, so we just wait to get the list.
Like we get told the dates by the CAO, so if they've shifted it, we can't move it, and that works for you, then that's good. So
I'm quite to know, because I know
you can sleep for 5 days. It's a short answer. Any other questions? Yeah.
So you submitted this CAO before the deadline, but then after the deadline, they came out and make amendments. But the lead course was still on it. You still do agree?
Sorry, let's go closer.
Yeah, so if you submitted the CAO for the normal closing date, but then afterwards, we made amendments to it.
To your entrance submission?
Yeah, like when you have to pay the 10-year fee to make amendments to your CAO.
To your CAO choices?
Yeah.
Okay.
Does that still put you in the green, or anything like that?
You will just have to, whenever you get the link, it will have a submission date and you have to submit by that date. So an example I could give, I suppose, would be same change of mind. You had LM 173 before, and then you went in the first way, you submitted it, and you got your number of points back. And then you said, oh, I'm going to move it up to first, now I'm changing mind. You will not get another link to resubmit, because you've already submitted. But if someone had never got LM 173 for 10, and then came along and put it in for change of mind, they would have the first time they applied for the course, and they would get it. Does that make sense? It's like when you first apply, you get the link, and you have to use it in that.
So somebody had a
Is there a certain standard you should meet with the project to get 200, or is it like this top percentage of people that get 200?
We don't really, so I think we've done sort of mark everybody in a sort of from 0 up to 1. So if we get 200 applications, we don't. But so we mark based on the project.
Okay, so
The next question you're going to ask is what's the average mark of project, and I'm not going to tell you, right? So each project, you know, is marked, and they're not marked relative to other projects.
Yeah.
So, which is what you're sort of asking.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah.
So as long as you meet a certain standard.
Yeah. The one thing I'd say about projects, and you know, this is the one thing I would say is I've often met people that have sort of come up and said, I was going to submit a project, but it wasn't good enough. And when you look at it, it was good enough. So the only thing that I would say is, you know, the only thing you can do wrong is not submit at all, right? So don't underestimate or overestimate, or if you want to go for it, submit it. Worst case scenario, you know, you don't get it, so what? I mean, but if you like the course and you want to do it, I would say go for it. Right? And whatever project you have, submit it. You know, and don't try and guess too hard. Any other questions?
Actually, on that, if you do apply for the first exit and you get your points back before the leaving cert, you have an opportunity then, if you think you did really well at 200, great, I'm going to put LM173 right at the top and change your mind. Or you might do the opposite if you didn't do well and you want to go in a different direction.
Alright, so just get it as early as possible.
Another question.
Yeah, returning caller here. If you're doing Route A, the technology project, are you looking more for an in-depth look at the project itself, or more of a personal view on like how you?
I'll talk a little bit about that in the next few slides. I think
It's a lot more detail on that.
Yeah. Anybody else before I roll on? Go on.
Could you submit an ongoing project or talk about?
Yeah, you can. You can submit an ongoing project. It doesn't have to be this perfectly complete and working thing, and it has to be functioning to some extent. I suppose, if it's a code-based project and it doesn't compile, and that's probably not good. But if it's a project that's working to an extent, but I nearly stood on the mic. Sorry, John. If it's a project that sort of functions to some extent, and you actually say, well, if I had time, I would like to do this and do this, that's fine. And that's even perhaps nice to have, you know, what I could do if I went on. Yeah.
Hand over to you again now.
So if you think, and this is one way to try and to work out what, you know, when you're sort of saying what's the project meant to look like or all that, it might be interesting to think a little bit about what we're looking for, right? So why is the project there? So ISE is different in a lot of ways, and I won't go into, you know, the industry-based stuff, the studio-based teaching, and there's this, and I always forget at least, because it's quite a different course, right? Compared to your classical computer science course. But one of the things that makes it different is the you know, how we select our students, and we have this component here, and what we're looking for, or you know, is to try and work out whether somebody fits the course, right? And it doesn't matter which path you take, we're sort of trying to work out the same thing. Some of you, out of interest, how many have done computer science in the Leaving Cert? So some of you, quite a few, okay, that's nice, but some of you won't have, right? Because I think computer science is only in, well, I get very sort of percentages, like 30 or 40% of schools now, I think. So some of you won't have had a chance to do computer science. Some of you won't have a chance to do any programming, right? But it will be important for us that you can at least learn to code. Because if you can't, that's a problem. So one of the things we're trying to ascertain is sort of what sort of mind you have and whether you can learn to do this, right? So you don't have to have it, but you certainly will have to have the potential to do that, okay? So when you're thinking what sort of project or what should I write or anything like that, try and think what we're thinking when we're looking at it. We're trying to look at, does this person fit? I should say it's not all about the code either, right? I mean, I'm sort of a little bit code-centric, but the course, you know, it's 80% computing, but there's a very important 20%, which is like innovation, entrepreneurial, so that we're looking for that side as well, right? But we're looking for a right balance, but probably good to say that one completely by itself really isn't the ideal for us. We're looking for a nice mix, but certainly we want the technical stuff. So I've just got a few pointers here, and that will sort of put you in mind of the sort of person that we're looking for. So analytical mindset, strong ability to analyze problems, break them down into smaller components, identify solutions. So if you're talking about some project that you're going to do or something like that, it's really good if you can actually talk about the solution as well, right? Not just, I want a car that doesn't have wheels that floats, that would be great, I'm going to do that. It would be nice if you said that, but this is actually the technology. This is how I think I can make this work. Okay, not just a dream, but some possible pathway about how you might get there. So strong mathematical foundations. So usually there's a link between maths and programming. You don't have to be you don't have to get A in maths. It's not A anymore, is it? H1. You don't have to be a H1 in maths. And in fact, that's a really standard question that you always get through the years is, do you have to be like a maths genius to do programming and get on in computing? The answer is no, but you have to be reasonably good at it, right? You don't have to, and in fact, I've had students that were really, really good at maths that weren't actually very good at coding. But one thing I could safely say, if you're really, really bad at maths, I suppose you're not doing high level anyway, then you're not going to be able to do coding. But I've had brilliant programmers that are, what I'd say, reasonable at maths, but they're actually fantastic programmers. So you need to be comfortable with maths, but that doesn't need to be your main thing, right? But you need to be comfortable with it. Logical reasoning, so the ability to think logically, systematically, in designing algorithms, troubleshooting complex problems. One of the themes that you get all the time is this idea of problem solving, okay? And I suppose, there's lots of ways I could describe the course. One very succinct way would be it's a sort of problem solving, innovation, creative, but with technology, right? And you need those two components. You need that imagination ability, but not just to sort of think, oh, I imagine this. It's also the steps to actually I can build it, I can make it, right? So there's an implementation aspect there. So those two things together are really a quite powerful sort of mixture. So curiosity, eagerness to learn. So you obviously need to want to learn. Interesting how things work. Those are the sort of people I'm looking for. How does this function? That's one of the things. What's going on here? So curious about technologies, how they work. Okay, if this is sort of sounding like you, this is good. Persistence. I have some students that I was teaching yesterday here, and they had to have a little bit of persistence, didn't you? Because I finished up giving them an exercise, and you just have to sit down and you have to persist because it's not plain, it's not easy. You have to think and rethink things and try things, and in the end, persistence is a really important aspect, and sometimes that can be sort of portrayed as it's a good sign. Maybe it's bad in other ways, but it's a good sign, I think, if you've done something programming-wise and you've left the class and it's still annoying you and going around in your head, and then at some stage in the evening you're watching TV or you're playing football or something. You go, I think I know what I need to do here now. So if that sort of describes some things in you, that's really good. Attention to detail. So small errors in code. So sometimes you have to get really detailed and step through code and sort of focus and bring yourself down and actually push everything else out. All people go away for a moment out of your head, and you're just stepping through code, right? So these, to me, if I try and write them down and describe the sort of characteristics of somebody I'm looking for, if I could read these, if I feel that from the project or the submission, that's a good thing. These are the sort of things that I like to see in people. okay? The students in the set, my first year said, that's not me. So, in a good software project, what do I look for? What do we look for? Problem identification and scope. Scope's really important. So, firstly, you want to identify problem. Scope is enlarging it or usually making it smaller. Actually making it sizable. And this is especially important if we're talking about like submitting a project here for ISE, something that's achievable and doable, right? Not like I've decided I'm going to write a software system to do this, and that. Okay, so scoping is really important. And solution design and planning. So not just telling us what's going to happen, but how are you going to get there? How you plan to get there, what are the steps, what are the development steps, your technical implementation, iterative development and milestones. So usually to get from here to there, there's a problem over there, and it seems insurmountable, it seems really big, very challenging, very hard to get to, and cognitively we often sort of find that something that sort of turns us off, like how do you do that, how do you get there? And really, how most things work in the world now, is you set sort of milestones. So you get here first, and you get to the first bit, and you plan the second bit, and you slowly get there. So you actually plan stages until you get to it, and you break the problem down into smaller problems. You solve this one, then you solve that one, and then once you have those two solved, you can solve this. And so that sort of organization. Problem solving, adaptability, and so sometimes, and if I go into my psychology degree, sometimes dyslexics are particularly good at this actually. Sometimes you're looking at a problem, and if you keep looking at it and trying to go the same solution path, there's just no. Sometimes you sort of have to stand back and you realize, I can go from a completely different angle and solve it in a completely different way. So adaptability, problem solving should nearly be everywhere. I'd love to put it on top of every slide. And validation and testing. So once you come up with a solution, does it work? Does it work in lots of different scenarios? Does it break if you put in wrong values? Have you tested everything? Is it secure and whole? Okay. And reflective learning and improvement. Okay, this idea, so what did I learn, or how, so I sort of mentioned this before, how might I improve a project? I have questions like, so somebody over there asked, does it have to be a finished thing? No, if it's partially working, and you could say, well, I could do, given time, actually, which I don't have because I'm doing the leaving cert, this is the improvement I would make. I would do this, I would do this, and I would do this. And if I did these things, this would get faster, this would make the database smaller, and I would do this. Or I could switch it from this language to this language, because this language is it's an easier one to program. This is more complicated, but it usually it'll be faster in this case. So that sort of stuff. Again, what I'm trying to do is get you to understand what we're trying to get when we look at your projects, right? So rather than saying, what do I do? Tell me what to do to get the most points. I'm trying to say, this is what I'm looking for. Now, you're all going to come in with different projects, right? You're all going to come in with a whole variation of different groups, A and B, and there's all going to be different things. But essentially, this is what I'm trying to work out as we go through these. It's a video next. I'm going to skip that. Is that right? Yeah. Good.
Hi, I'm James. I'm studying Immersive Software Engineering at University of Limerick. I did the technology project for my entrance submission, and for that technology project I expanded on my Leaving Cert Computer Science project, which was building an air quality monitoring system for classrooms with a microbit. I found expanding on the project pretty interesting. I got to do what I wanted to do, and it wasn't too difficult, and I was really happy with the final project that I had at the end.
Hello, I'm Cian, and I won the Provisional Scholarship last year for getting the most amount of points in my technical in my entry portfolio. So what I did was, have any of you here made games at all? Good man, Chris, I know you have. So do you know the properties panel that you'd often see down in the bottom right-hand corner? That's showing all your different properties, the values up inside it. That is shown to you through reflection. What reflection is it shows a program's own state and allows you to change the state of that program. That is what I've done. I'll start this off with a story. So originally, this was not my planned project. I was making a project that would play rock, paper, scissors automatically and would hopefully win. I made this beautiful model. It was amazing. Everything was going great. There's just one slight issue. It lost 100% of the time. So I had to quickly ring around, roughly a few days to the deadline, everyone I knew saying, do you need some work done? Do you mind if I have this public for a few months? And that's when I met Benji. He ran a small games company called Vave, and what they needed is, they were making a game engine, and they needed reflection. Reflection was crucial for them because it powers the likes of IntelliSense for their own scripting language, and it also allows you to edit the properties, as I was saying before. Oh, lovely. Anyway, so I started developing this. It went somewhat all right. I was on a bit of a crunch, but there were a few minor issues. Regex was the main one. To quote Mark Berkeley, regex can solve one issue, but they'll give you 100 more. And he was very right with that, because as I tried fixing an issue with detecting the namespace, it ended up breaking absolutely everything else that was in there. So, skip that a bit early, but I was very proud of this project because it was actually being used in a commercial environment, and it was quite easy for Vave to use, which is the company that I designed it for. There were other issues with it though. It was not a universal solution, which this is not the slide I'm on. Anyway, it was not a universal solution. This was a bit of an issue because I couldn't reuse this elsewhere. This was one of the main things that I would have liked to have changed if I was going back on this project. The main issues were, it didn't have different protection level support because everything Vave was reflecting was going to be public anyway, and nothing was going to be static. So they were the main two things that weren't going well. Now, back to the slide that I skipped. It achieved its goal. Vave was able to use it. They are continuously using it, and they are still currently using it, as far as I know. So that is my project, and I will hand this back to whoever's talking next.
Okay.
Yeah, this is my project now. This is another project from about a year ago, 2 years ago. I'm going to go through what we liked about this one, kind of explain that, what we're looking for from our side. First of all, we're kind of looking at how did the student do their problem identification, how do they scope the problem. Everything in green there is what was in the actual submission itself, and then beneath our views on it. So the focus was on making a comic character search into. I suppose we're also trying to show here that it's quite a broad spread, even the technical projects. They're not all like operating systems or whatever. They're quite varied. So we basically want you all to kind of open your minds a bit, think about what you can do that's innovative, that's different, that will stand out from everyone else. So that's a key thing really in applying to the entrance submissions. Make it your own. Kind of try and get across what was about you that would make you a good fit for this course. So yeah, they demonstrated the design process. They shared photos of paper-based rough work. They kind of took the pictures and they put them into PDF. And they designed notes, and it kind of showed how they were working through the process, how they were developing this. And you could see it was all a bit rough at the start because they weren't sure what they were doing, and that was good because it demonstrated the way they were thinking their design process. And she also shared links she had a GitHub repository where all the code was. And we could then go in and have a look at the code and the documentation behind the system as well. And which, A, we could see how it was put together and, how was it well written. And B, it's good to prove that you've actually created something, because we know in these days of generative AI that we need to be very careful to make sure that all the content is, the student's own work. And so what you can do by sharing links like this, you're kind of backing up, I did this, here's me writing on a piece of piece of paper. Here's an achievement I did. Here's a photo of the Limerick Post, whatever, saying I did something. So that's why we look for evidence behind it. So I've gone off topic slightly. This is why we look for evidence in the entrance submission behind why you've achieved something, that we want proof, if you like. So because we know that things can be generated using AI as well. So we know about that. So moving on, onto the technical implementation of this project. As it says there, it involved web scraping, and the student, they demonstrated an iterative process, like I put one in the corner, build, learn, adjust. It's going to keep going around and improving the project. They showed example outputs for sample characters, and then they improved the accuracy of the data by removing misleading values. They kind of went through the data and they cleaned it up. That's quite a common thing to do in data analytics as well. And then they showed other sources of the same information to verify its accuracy. This is an example of testing. We love proof that you've actually tested something. You don't just throw it out there. You try and break it, try and see does it perform correctly, just give you back the results you want. And we really appreciate that kind of thing in these submissions as well. Now we move on to the problem solving and adaptability side of things. Actually, you're probably noticing that all these kind of overlap with each other anyway. They're not all kind of distinct, unique areas. But they talked about kind of a problem they hit. They're using code from their ALT2 project. That's detailed in it. But they found it inefficient, so they kind of rewrote the code to try and make it more efficient. And they talked about problems they came across. Actually, I can laser it. Oh no, batteries. And they used test cases for this to try and find out how they improved the efficiency of their code. And as it says at the bottom, she was showing how she worked around initial technical issues by trying new approaches, like it wasn't as efficient as she wanted it to be, and then gave examples of the testing to ensure the results were accurate and reproducible. Reproducible is very important. If it only happens sometimes, then you can't really trust the system, can you? So. And finally, focusing on reflective learning and improvement. This is kind of a summary at the end. You'd often do this in a report anyway, or finding a report here in UL, if you're writing an essay or anything like that. You would normally have a summary section at the bottom where you can reflect on how everything went, what you learned from it. So this is kind of the idea of this. The student demonstrated how she learned from the process. And then there was kind of a report about, I didn't quite have all these things done, but this is what I'd like to do in the future. This didn't work out great, I would do this differently the next time. Or if I started from scratch, I might have done it a different way. And it kind of showed the thought process of the student, and that kind of impressed us when we read that. We thought it was very good. And also, on the document itself, it was presented very nicely. It was nice font, nice layout, good color choices. If you're presenting your PDF, just think about how can I make this look nice as well. I mean, it's all about presentation. It says something about you as well. So if you're seeing different fonts, bullet points kind of not lining up, things like that, that kind of draws attention as well. Because you're writing code, you want everything to be very accurate, very correct, so it runs correctly. So it's a good indicator, if you like, for the future. I think I'm handing over to someone else. Is it back to you? Or?
I don't know.
Or is it
I'll take it. I think it's a good time to ask any more questions.
Okay, right.
Barry's not here yet anyway. Okay. That's all right. So we have time for questions. You're allowed to ask 2 or 3 or more.
So not one. On the technology project, am I allowed to have more than one? Like one for my primary focus, which I'll talk about throughout the project, and then just mention some other ones.
I think I would be, I think that would be fine with me if you had one and mentioned some others. I don't think that would be a problem with that. Like, I don't think there's really any hard or fast rules, I suppose, But you are limited, right? So you're sort of, the more you talk about other projects, the more you're sort of limited in the other ones. So.
But if there's a link to a GitHub account and there's a few projects inside it, that's fine. We'll look at them all. We'll just be nosy there.
More questions? Yeah, you take me on my word and it was true.
Would you be interested in looking at a video documentation of the entire project, like in maybe a GitHub or share video.
So this is where it's getting dangerous. Hold on to video, because I'm not going to sit down with you.
Just like 5 to 6 minutes.
So if there was a link somewhere to a video, yeah, I wouldn't bar that. But do think about it. We get a lot of applications, right? A lot more than that's in this room. So there is, like, I would be lying to you if I said we sit down with each one and we spend a day, going through it and make it. We can't. So we are limited in terms of time. So you've got it's like one of those pitches you do. I'm sure Roshan will show you how to do those pitches that you get on the course. But it's like you've got X minutes, 5 minutes to pitch. So make sure you have distilled the message and the stuff you're getting across in that small bit. One of the dangers is if you just keep adding and adding, and I'm going to put this and this and this and this. We can't just sit down and spend 3 hours with these things looking through it. So make sure to distill it to a reasonable amount. I don't want to. So that's the only danger, because you could add this, you could add this, and you could add this. But you have one of the things when you're getting your submission together is you have to think, what do I really want? What's the impressive stuff that I want to push out front, rather than leading me on a journey. I said me, but there's a whole team of us that do this. Yep.
You know, when you went through, I think you're looking for like a good project, like product identifications for the system design and all that. Do you, for the PDF, is it like have each section, or is it more global?
So those aren't section headings.
Okay, sure.
Those are just things that are pulled out of my head. Okay, so you have your own section headings, and again, think about what your project is, what section headings push that you put in there. Yeah. So I tend to not be super formulaic in these things, right? And I would say we're going to get a load of different projects, and what I won't do is give you a formula to sort of do it. You have to come up with your own gig.
Thinking of projects that only work on like a certain Windows version, for example, if it was interacting with something in the kernel, would that be acceptable?
Yeah, I get it. So the question was, if you have a project that only works in a certain environment, a technical environment, could I submit that, even though you might be able to download it and compile it or something? Is that what you're saying? Yeah, that's not a problem for me. Yeah.
How strict is the word count?
I don't know how strict is the word count.
We've stopped reading the 800.
That's like people. If you go over it by one word, that's okay.
Don't make a big word though.
So yeah, if the word's more than 7 characters,
Yeah, what I'm impressed with is if what you present is concise, comes across clearly. So think about it that way, really. It's like an elevator pitch. You heard about those, where you can tell someone something before you get to the next floor, and get your points across, and like pitch for a company or something. So yeah, being concise is a good thing. That we're impressed with that.
More questions? Okay, last chance? No, not last chance. So I think now we move. Hopefully Barry will make it. And we're going to move on to an icebreaker session. A break. There was another question that came up online, and it was, can you put 2 projects in your submission? And again, I think that was asked earlier. You can put 3 or 4 projects in, but don't forget you've got a limited amount of space, right? And if you feel those 2 projects are really good, that's fine, but there is a limited bandwidth and a limited time we're going to look at stuff. So, and that's got to be a decision. I can't answer it exactly, but there's nothing barring you from putting in 2 or 3 projects, right? But but you have to make that trade-off in your own minds. Now, so we've had the icebreaker, and Barry has shown up now, so I'm going to hand. Hopefully he's not going again.
No.
Oh yeah. So I'm going to hand over to him now.
Thanks.
How's it going? I'll try to keep it short and sweet as possible. As mentioned, it's written right up there, I'm Barry Lunn. I'm the founder and CEO of Provisio. We're one of the partner companies since the beginning of immersive software engineering. We really believe from day one, when the guys put it across our desk, in what you were trying to do. And if some of you are lucky enough to get into immersive software engineering and be part of it, we hope we'll be lucky enough to get you guys to come in and work with us, right? And what we do is we're in the automotive space. Vehicle autonomy, I think everyone's heard an awful lot about. Worked in that space for quite a number of years. Everything from autonomous spaceships into autonomous helicopters, and then eventually founded Provisio for cars. But actually, less focused on autonomy and more focused on safety, making us all better drivers and using the technologies that people have developed for autonomy and applying them to making all of us better drivers. So in terms of what you could end up doing if you came into Provisio, like, we expect the students that come in to hit the ground running. We're a small company, we're a startup, 32 people, right? So when you come in, you're working on a project, and you get to do some really cool stuff, and you get to see it implemented on the vehicle. So guys from Immersive Software Engineering work primarily for us around the AI and machine learning side of things, so training neural nets, and they get to build their own, and they get to use their own ideas and see how it goes, and then they get to get into the vehicle and see it work, right? So, being honest, you know, I don't think the Collisons are in the room. We're the coolest company in immersive software engineering, right? So that's very. And what I guess I wanted to talk to you about is the submission, the portfolio or the personal statement or whatever that it's called now. And I would say I'm probably partially responsible for that being a part of the course. So apologies for those of you who find it painful to do, right? But it shouldn't be, right? And the reason and back and forth around why it was implemented is, as an employer, as a founder, as a technologist, I couldn't give a crap what you guys get in your leaving cert, right? All that does is gives you the opportunity to get into the course you want, right? Never have I looked at this. And when we look at the people that come into us, and before ISE, one of the interns we got in, amazing guy, and he sent in, you know, we get loads, right? Because we do cool stuff, I don't know if I mentioned. We get loads of applications for internships. People want to come and work with us, and they're doing whatever. And one that shone out, and what happens is, it comes in, if we think it's really good, we send it out to the team, and someone in the team has to say, yeah, I want to work with this intern, I want to take him on. Because there's an overhead to taking on an internship, right? And that's how we worked it. And one of the guys, a couple of years ago, we got in, he was in the third year in UL and in engineering, and he sent in his CV, and generally they don't kind of land on my desk, and the next thing it landed on my desk, and it was from HR, and it just said, you got to see this. And I opened it. There was a link at the top. I clicked the link, and it was just what this guy had done, right? It started with the car he built, right? He bought 2 cars, put them together, and so we sent it out to the team. Every single person in the organization wanted to sponsor him. Everyone wanted to work with him because he was showing us what he had done, right? He came in on an internship. We never let him go. He went back to college. We paid him to finish his degree because to get him doing stuff while he was doing it. And now he works with us, and he's an incredible contributor. And I believe in this methodology of work. My background is actually design. To get into art college and design college, you have to have a portfolio. My son is with me here today because he had a match, and we just had to come from that. He knows the pain of growing up with me, because he's had to have a portfolio since he was born, essentially. And when we were coming into the car, I just said to him, what's the piece in your portfolio that you're most proud of right now, right? And he would have started off with drawings and things like that. And then they cultivate it, and they start taking out the bad drawings that they were doing a couple of years ago, and they've gotten a bit better. And he said, well, there's a new game I'm after building, and I've got a kind of it's not really an AI, but I'd love that if that piece was an AI, because now it's kind of hard coded and it just shoots at you. But I'd love if that, and I'm going, that's okay. You might, and keep working at this, you might have a shot at ISE, because that's what it's all about. That thing of building. He didn't build that because I told him to build it because he wants to have a game, right? He wants to have that. And that's what I encourage you to look at the portfolio. Don't think of it as an overhead. of something that, oh, it's a chore I've got to do to get into immersive software engineering. Honestly, if it's a chore, maybe ISE isn't for you, right? Because this is a course about doing. That's what the whole thing of 50% of your time working in companies. So do something that you love, and cultivate that. And people will be asking, is this my best? Is that my worst? Is that, and you just talked about that. I think that's the best thing in the world, right? If it was me, I would just show my best and be really strict about that and go, you know what, this is how I shine. And just show what you're about. Because trust me, if you get into ISE, the people that will get the best internships, the ones they really want, will be the ones that continue with the best portfolio, that'll continue cultivating that through the course, and when they come out, they'll be the ones that will get into the best companies, people who are doers, the people who are makers. So that'd be what I'd encourage you. And one last thing, which is the kind of cherry on top, I was very lucky to be down here 2 weeks ago, presenting our first scholarship, Provisio scholarship, and this is how much we believe in the portfolio, for the best portfolio that has been produced. And that's a 10,000 euro scholarship that can really help. I would say, would that be fair to say?
Yeah.
It can certainly help with the cost of going to college, right? And that's an annual scholarship from Provisio as well. So it's just an added incentive. When you're doing that portfolio, maybe don't do enough. Do it that you're going to get that scholarship, that you're going to have the best portfolio. Because trust me, if you keep that attitude, you'll fly through this, and you'll do really well. So that's me. Thanks, guys.
Thanks so much, Barry. As Barry said, he is a really strong supporter, and one of the original team that helped to kind of create this whole course. We owe him a huge set of thanks, and continue to kind of engage with him and ask for input and feedback as we develop the course further and further. So my name is Roshi, and I'm going to take you through the next stage, which is the personal profile. A little bit about me. I am an associate professor in entrepreneurship and innovation. So I actually work in this building, which is the Chemie Business School, and I kind of crazily actually petitioned to be part of the ISE teaching team because I believed so strongly in it. My kind of background is pedagogy. I love to see how we can create new startup cultures in teams and companies. And when I saw what was happening in ISE, I was like, okay, I have to be a part of this. This is something new. This is something exciting. I can see that this is where the next real CEOs, CTOs, and founders are going to come from. So I've been part of the team for about 1.5 years now, and I run what's called the minor across the ISE program. So while Chris and the tech team are all delivering the major topics in computing and computer science, I deliver and I help staff the delivery of things like entrepreneurship, innovation, project management, communications, right down to how you do your taxes as a software engineer. We add on these minor topics into your computer science degree so that when you walk away, you also have this really good potential to speak for yourself, to advocate, to think about the funding ecosystem, to know if you want to start something or join something, you know what your potential is and what their potential as a company can be. We've seen some significant successes with this. We've had a lot of wins in kind of hackathons, competitions. We've got a lot of students that are really pursuing some pretty high-level dreams in the kind of innovation space. I don't claim that that's part of the minor process, but we engage highly achieving students, and this is one opportunity that some of them like to avail of. So there's kind of, in your teaching delivery week, there's a little bit of other stuff that you get to learn about, and the students can tell you about that too. And part of the profile side of the entrance submission is really about that. It's, we want really highly technical students, but we also want students that have high levels of innovation, people that can put puzzles together in different and interesting ways, that can see kind of novel opportunities for what they are, and maybe think about businesses and things around them. So the profile is for anyone that has multiple achievements, multiple talents, have multiple interests, and would like to kind of show us a kind of a more wholesome picture of what that looks like. The profile is also maybe if you are from a school that doesn't have computer science, maybe, but have been working on competitions or tinkering away with your own tools for a long time. Maybe you would like to show some other strings to your bow as well as the technical stuff you've been working on yourself. So if you don't have that big high-level project, but you have been really committed to kind of science-backed courses and science stuff for a long time, the profile might be the way to go for your submission. The preface behind the personal profile is to make sure and show us your skills and interests relating to science, technology, engineering, maths, and innovation in a way that connects with you. So we want to see your achievements, we want to see your thoughts, your ideas, some storyboards of stuff, and we want you to show us as much as possible that convince us that you are a great fit. And like Barry said, it shouldn't be something that you have to think on too much. You know, the stuff that you spend your time, your weekends, your evenings, the stuff that you read, the stuff that you engage with, should all be kind of in this sphere. Tell us about yourself. This is your first handshake to us to introduce yourself. After this, entrance submission process is over, can I tell you that the wider team are so excited about the cohort that come. We're really excited today, to see these are the potential students that we'll have in our class. This is a really positive thing. And I know that when you are midway through the Leaving Cert and everything is all about points and hours and days and parents driving you left, right, and centre, I know that it becomes very zero-sum game. But actually, this is quite a positive experience for us because we get to be already proud of our incoming students. Okay? So let's have a look at what the questions are. There are 4 questions, and you will do 3 of the 4. As Ian would have mentioned, the points add up to 200 on top of your CAO marks. So we'll take you through them one by one, and then we have some of our students here that have done the profile side of the entrance submission, and they can give you their experiences. So question 1 is, do you have a talent or interest that is highly important to you? Tell us about this aspect of your identity and your key accomplishments in this area. Remembering that we've prefaced this by kind of leaning you towards telling us stories that are related to science, technology, engineering, maths, innovation. Tell us about your key accomplishments in this area. Now, we would ask that for each question you provide a link that provides support. And as Ian said already, this is really just to kind of validate what you're doing and give us some more kind of context on these. So within that link, you might have a PDF document of maybe competitions that you were engaged in or things that you did, organizations that you were a part of, etc. The example that we have up here was from 2 years ago, I think. In school, this student was one of the founding members of the Science Hub project, an educational outreach project related to STEM, and grew that project. So within that, there was a clear commitment to STEM, and interest in STEM, and interest in community, and someone that displays a lot of high achieving competencies, time management, engagement with the community, all of those things to kind of show excellence in that area. So the engagement had a transformative effect on the student. We know that our students are going to do great things. When we see them doing great things already, that is a good sign for sure. That's one type. If your accomplishments are in different areas, fine. Maybe you have a huge interest. It doesn't necessarily mean that you've won loads of medals. Maybe you are an avid reader in, technology. Tell us that story. Show us the book list that you've read. Just show us you you are high achieving, you are worthy of being here. We also know that this process works because we are very, very proud of our students. They are the right fit, and we know we did it well. Okay, our second question then is in relation to, I'll just click back so we get the full question. Question 2, tell us about a time you solved a problem. How did you identify and test the solution? What did you learn from the experience? So this is a little bit about your problem solving. Note the theme that we've been talking about through all of our talk. It's about how you kind of overcame a problem, but really about your kind of scaffold thinking through this. So how did you kind of recognize the problem? How did you plan? Kind of how you were going to solve it? What were your steps? What were your reflection afterwards? So we do really want to see that like systematic thinking going through. As Chris will tell you many, many times, it is very, very important part of kind of coding or computer software to be able to think through a problem and a solution. But actually for innovation and for kind of general business, that's also very important too. So if you were solving a problem, it can be a software problem, it can be a kind of another science or STEM related problem, maybe an engineering one. Describe the context around it. What was the challenge? How did you identify solutions or gather data? How did you test the final solution? And what did you learn? Within the link, you might show some of that experience. Maybe you have a visual where you show the different steps you went through, for example. Again, it would be kind of a missed opportunity if you didn't provide some external information. So always use that link and show us something else in the PDF. Otherwise, we're just going on a very small piece of text. So show us as well as tell us if you can. Now, question 3 is tell us about your kind of computer science background or your technical background if you have embarked on that. And this is kind of a nice way of kind of showing us that complete picture. So if if you have had a technical background in some way, if you've done many things here, you can use this question too. You don't have to choose this question, but if you want to show a little bit more depth in that computer science background, you can do so here. Again, be specific about the maybe languages, tools that you've used. It also could be maybe if you've developed a website or you've been involved in something like that yourself, things that you've done at home for your family. We'd like to see how you embarked on those journeys and under what kind of time constraints, within what timelines you might have done some stuff. Again, be proud of what you've done here and don't diminish it. So even if it was like something small that you did for the local hurling team because they needed something set up, be proud of what you've done and show it to us. Let us be the deciders on whether it's good enough or not. I promise you it will be. And then the fourth, obviously probably my favorite question, but we don't have a preference in the grading. Because I am a teacher of innovation, this is a question about you and kind of your fit within the ISE structure. In our modules, we have what's called an epic project, where we blend the different subjects that you take together under one big umbrella, and we get you to do one big combined project called an epic project. Those are really kind of engaged things that involve innovation, involve all your different subject areas. And we actually get students to try and solve quite kind of complex problems for companies. It's part of the process of getting ready for residency. But if you were an ISE student, what kind of big level project would you like to work on? We want you to kind of set a challenge for us. Let us think about this a little bit. What would the project look like? What would the kind of scope of it be? And this should be something that kind of interests you, that you find a creative kind of process. Hey, I would love to develop a video game or a VR game, or I would love to do this, and this is what it would look like. in your maybe PDF here or your link, you might show some mock-ups, some storyboards, you might have some kind of more technical specifics in here, whatever you would like. And the gang here will tell you what they would have done here too. So those are the kind of the 4 questions. We might take the video first, we might, and then move to questions from the audience.
No, take questions.
Wait, take questions now? Yeah? Maybe have a think about questions and then we'll come back.
No question, no?
Oh, there's a question here. Yeah.
More people do the technology submission or the personal portfolio?
Did more people do the technology project or the personal? It was quite split.
I can't remember. It was 50-50.
It was fairly even. Yeah. And again, there is no preference between one and the other, so it really is personal choice for this. I mean, we saw incredible submissions on both sides. So yeah, just whatever way you think tells your story the best. It's just a kind of a logical one. If you have a very high level tech project that you're working on as part of your CS, leaving cert or something, you know, from a time perspective, that might be the choice. Or if you feel like, okay, I've been working on some stuff, but I also have been doing all of these other engagements, you know, at different points in my life, or at summers or the weekends, and I want to tell that story too, then that might lean you over to profile. Okay. Okay, well, we'll take questions at any stage. We're pretty open to suggestions, feedback, comments, everything. So we'll continue. So I think we have a video now to show.
Hi, my name is Amelia. I'm studying ISE in UL. I did the personal profile for my project and I chose questions 1, which was tell me about an aspect of your identity or a talent or interest to you that's highly important. I did question 2, which regarded problem solving, and question 4, which was pitching a project idea. I found the process to be relatively smooth, and while I had no prior coding experience whatsoever, I did tie in aspects of my creativity and innovation, which I do believe they look for on the ISE course.
And actually, Emily, you're here, Amelia is here, so if you have anything to add to that?
I would just say you're putting your best foot forward. So good to a word count. So don't humble yourself. Be completely confident in what you put forward. If you think your hobby, or if you have like multiple hobbies that you're unsure which one to go with, if you think one ties into problem solving more, and you have something to show for it, 100% write about that. Or if you have like achievements in something, don't put yourself down and be like, is it not good enough? Write about it. 100% write about it.
And we've a bit of kind of congratulations to Amelia today because her team just came second in the UL Hult Prize, which is a social innovation competition this week. So she just got in yesterday.
We are looking to develop a watch that includes features such as GPS tracking, fall detection, AI voice recognition, and heart monitoring to help Alzheimer's patients, so that when they tend to wander, they can be located, and if in case of any emergency, their care will be notified. As this is quite a prominent issue in places such as Japan, where they have over 16,000 missing dementia-related cases each year. So we hope to solve this issue. Yeah.
Okay, great. And then we're going to pass over to Matthew to tell his experience.
Hello, my name is Matthew. I'm a first year student. I scored 158 in the personal profile. I'm not sure if I'm supposed to say that, but I think it's interesting to know what people actually scored. You can see up here to get started, just pick your questions. If you can do question 3, which is about the technology experience, then you should do it. But if you can't, then you're forced into other questions, and you should just get started on that. Question 4, I didn't do, and I would highly recommend it. I think it shows your creativity and how you kind of separate yourself from other people. It's not too intimidating. It says think big, but you don't need to make the next Amazon. I think whatever comes to mind, I think as long as it's different and your own idea, I think that's the main thing. I chose this route because computer science wasn't in my school. I didn't have any experience. I had never written a single line of code before coming to ISE. And there is a bit of imposter syndrome with that when you go in the first day and you see all these people with such a high degree like Ian. It does, like, everything's a bit alien to you. But you get used to it very quick. Everything started from scratch. I didn't have any experience, and I'm getting along fine so far. I chose my questions because they were the 3 easiest to answer for me. Just really don't overcomplicate it. Like, just get started writing, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Then you can maybe choose another question after. But I think just write something and then get someone else to proofread it for you. That's what I did. Challenges with my submission. I was a bit scared of coming across as vain or conceited talking about my achievements, but they need to know what you're good at, what your skills are. Like, don't be scared to say what you're good at. Like, it's not no one's gonna look down on you for that. Fear of answering the question wrong. I think I had like 1 or 2 drafts for my first 2 questions. Like, I wasn't sure if I was answering them correctly. There's plenty of people you can come to ask. You can come ask any of those students afterwards, or just any of the lecturers. Everyone's happy to answer your questions. So if you have a specific like thing you might want to talk about, but you're not sure if it fits the question, I was the exact same. I was here last year. Just ask someone, and you'll get along fine. But yeah, my main thing would just be get started. Don't overthink it, and yeah, I think that's all.
Hi everyone, I'm Oren. I also did my personal portfolio, obviously. I didn't quite get as much as Matthew, but I'm here, so I can't do that badly. So I suppose getting started, was probably my toughest part of it. And don't overthink it. I know it sounds very obvious, but it's quite easy to get yourself kind of worked up and thinking, oh, this is wrong, that's wrong. Just start writing. If it doesn't feel right, start again. It's 400 words per question. Keep going until you find something that you think, okay, this gets me across well. And also write about genuine interests and experiences. Like, a big issue as well was trying to think, okay, this is what I'm into, this is what I've achieved, but will they like this? Will this be good enough for everyone in ISE? And the whole point of the personal portfolio is to get to know who you actually are. So if you have something that you are genuinely interested in and really passionate about, don't go thinking they might not like this. Just start writing about it and get yourself across. Why I chose this route, limited prior experience with code. Probably should have said no prior experience. I could use Microsoft Office, but that was about it. So that really removed the technical route for me. And then to showcase more about me as a person opposed to me as a student. You're all going to be bright people here. Anyone who has even the ambition to do ISE is going to be bright. But I think the beauty of the personal portfolio is it kind of shows who you are outside of the classroom, outside of your academic achievements. And it kind of just tells them more about what you want to be in the future, what you could achieve. Why I chose my questions. So I felt they gave me the best opportunity to speak about why I thought ISE was the best fit for me. At the end of the day, you are trying to sell yourself here. It's like a pitch for yourself. You want to kind of show everyone why you think that ISE is an environment where you'd excel and it would be somewhere to harbour your interests. And they also allowed scope for me to show off past experience as well as future aspirations. So like that, I chose to do question 4, which Matt was saying he didn't, because I did 2 questions where I spoke about what I've achieved, kind of what I'm interested in and what I've done up to now. But also, you're in 6th year. Like, you have a whole life ahead of you. You have 4 years of ISE. They don't expect you to come in and have this list as long as you're armed with things that you have done. It's quite important to show off that you have the brain to think outside the box of things you might want to achieve. Because at the end of the day, they are imparting the skill set onto you to go on and achieve these things. So show some ambition. Challenges in my submission. preemptive imposter syndrome. Like Matthew said, that was probably one of the biggest ones. I spent a long time reading my submission and things on it, thinking, oh yeah, there's going to be 100 other people who have 10 times more impressive things than me, or this won't be half as good as some of the people have done. But that's not the mindset you should have. I think in one of our first lectures in ISE, Roisin said something which was that one of the points of ISE, which I mentioned earlier too, is to create both CEOs and CTOs. So don't be comparing yourself in your submission to all these other people who might think of better technical skills than you or more achievements, because again, they're here to foster all these abilities in you. And so it is important to not be comparing yourself to others and just work on your own submission. And then treat it like my English leaving certificate. Like, it's, at the end of the day, this isn't immersive creative writing. Don't be spending your time trying to think, okay, I can think of a different word to that that's twice as long, it might be more impressive, or oh, I can structure this sentence more grammatically well. Roisin does like a nicely structured essay, but don't be spending too much time on it. And then my submission. I won't bore you to death giving you my life story about two of my other personal questions, because no one wants to hear that. But I will give you an example of question 4. So yeah, you do have to kind of show a mapping of how you would approach it, but like I cannot stress enough, think of something absolutely outrageous that you haven't a clue how to do. For example, my submission for question 4 was an extension onto Elon Musk's Neuralink, which will help Alzheimer's patients identify dangerous objects and people they've forgotten. As I said, I could barely work Excel when I put in this portfolio. So I can't stress enough that, for example, for question 4, really think outside the box, really just think of the most outlandish, crazy, innovative idea you can, and it will be well received. So that's pretty much all I've added about the personal portfolio. I'll be sitting down there and I'll be giving tours afterwards if anyone has any questions in particular. And yeah, thank you very much.
And next up. Oh, I think this is yours, maybe. Okay, so look, generally speaking, I think it becomes clear from both the technical project side and the portfolio side that we are looking for people that can problem solve. We are looking for people that have high technical acumen, that can communicate themselves well, and want to be here. And the fact that you're all giving up some of your time and your energy on a very busy time in your lives means that you are engaged in this. You want to be here, and if you do, we want to have you. So tell us your story, show us what you're interested in, you know, the stuff that keeps you engaged, that you spend your hours and weekends thinking about, reading about, working on, chatting to your friends about. We want to hear that story, what you're doing in your Leaving Cert projects. We want to see about that. That's what you'll walk in and talk about your first week of college, what you've worked on, the languages and code that you know, those types of things. So this is your first kind of, you know, venture point into us in that way. Ian had summarized that up previously. I'm not going to go through it in song or anything, but we want someone that displays a lot of these capacities too. There are some line of last minute notes. We can clarify these person to person. We're not for the use of AI or ChatGPT, but if you are using any element of it, you have to declare it. These are all displayed in the website in kind of FAQs and terms and conditions stuff. Anyway, remember to read the questions carefully and the target requirements. If you have been working on, if you're submitting something that was a component part of the group project, you need to state your part, your role, your contribution very clearly within that group project. You need to know exactly what was owned and run and devised by you. So make sure you articulate how much of the creative process, how much of the ideas, how much of the development, how much of it was yours. Leaving Cert projects, I'm not sure what that note is in relation to. Add on.
So I think that's if you're doing computer science at Leaving Cert and you want to use a project that you done as part of your computer science course.
Yeah.
It would be nice to sort of differentiate a little bit and add it on, rather than just being a standard solution you handed up. Sort of, it's quite okay to use it, but it would actually be an advantage if you added something more. Maybe
Another example would be DCG. I think 2 years ago we got a huge number of coffee mug designs because that was the Leaving Cert project.
Okay.
Now, you're not going to stand out from the other 30 people who have submitted a coffee mug design. So you need to think about how you're going to stand out. So if you all submit the same project, you're probably not going to stand out. So think about what you could add to it to make it yours.
coffee.
Great. And then we can't understate the importance of those links to the external sources. So again, try and make sure that they are kind of easy to access, not too time consuming. I like the video idea. But that they kind of work well, that they're not too complex to comb through, and they show us some stuff. So I think that moves to Q&A. I'm going to pass it back to Chris. Show here. And
so the Q&A bit is where you get to do this quiz here. So you need to get out your phones and do your QR scan on this.